Hey guys, my name is James Walsh, and you are listening to the Wrestling Epicenter here on YouTube. I want to thank you for finding us. Please do me a favor and click that subscribe button and the notifications bell. And if you get the chance on this video, click the like button. If you do, it'll turn blue. Check it out. Also, check out WrestlingEpicenter.com for all this great content available in MP3 format, our online store that'll keep us going free and clear, daily news updates, as well as all the information from the history of professional wrestling you could possibly ever want. Check out WrestlingEpicenter.com online right now. Without any delay, let's get to your interview here on the Wrestling Epicenter.
Like one really, really bad match.
Speaking of big superstars in TNA, guys, we got a former big superstar in TNA who was involved in one of those celebrity angles. David Young is now on the line with us. David, are you there with us?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, man. I got to tell you, we just had David on the line, and I forgot to unmute myself, so I was trying to interject myself into the story, and I couldn't get Nick's attention. So we got him on the air now, though. It's good to have you on. David, it's a long time coming, and we're glad to have you on. How you doing tonight?
I'm good.
What's you been up
to? I'm dealing with some family problems right now. My grandfather's in the hospital, but he's doing okay right now.
Well, we're sorry to hear that. Yeah, it's been a while since we've seen you. What have you been up to since departing from the company we were just before mentioning, to TNA?
Been really busy, honestly. I signed a deal with THQ, and I've been doing a lot of video game work, doing motion caption for video games for WWE. As a matter of fact, we just finished SmackDown versus Raw and the Legends of WrestleMania.
Really? Now, you're a part of the Legends of WrestleMania and SmackDown games.
Yeah, actually, if you look at the motion caption, most of it's me. I mean, a lot of it's me, especially Arn Anderson. I mean, when you see Arn Spinebuster, it's me.
That's you. Oh, see, you finally got a chance to do it. That's awesome, man.
So where did you learn to do that awesome Spinebuster? Because I got to say, your Spinebuster is probably second only to Arn Anderson. So where did you kind of tweak that and work that out into being one of the better Spinebusters in the business?
I don't know if you guys remember the guy, but Air Paris. He tagged with AJ Styles.
Former guest on the show, as a matter of fact.
Really? Well, he tagged with AJ Styles in WCW, and me and him used to work the indies together constantly, and it became a thing that I would do to try to kill him weekly. and the harder I would do it, the more he would just bounce right back. So that's actually how I developed the whole thing. It's just trying to hurt Air Paris.
Now, it's been a while since we've seen you do that in TNA. Now, were there any hard feelings when you left TNA? Because it seemed like you were there forever, and you always were on the cusp of really breaking through and just couldn't get there.
You know, there were so many politics involved in that. TNA, I had so much fun there. I'm not going to lie. I had a lot of fun there. I loved the guys I worked with. I hated the politics that came along with the job. You know, like one night we walked in and you know, our agent pulled us aside, and they're like, you're both going to lose to Shark Boy, same time. And, you know, I was like, what the hell is that? I said, you know, and
what was the story going into that? What was the logic behind it?
There was no logic. There was no rhyme. There was no reason. I mean, I showed up that day. We were working Shark Boy and Chase Stevens, and both of us were getting pinned at the same time. And I told the agent, I said, you know, look, if anybody's going to go under it, I'll do it. But he's not pinning both of us. And I was told that if I don't like the finishes, that I need to tell my partner to stop asking Jeff Jarrett for a raise.
Ooh. So that basically was a part of the politics. You were kind of getting punished for somebody else then.
Oh, God, I had heat constantly for something I didn't do. It was, and I don't know why, but I always landed in a tag team, and with Disco, I mean, the thing we were doing with Disco, he no-showed a pay-per-view to go to Hawaii, and the next thing you know, we're all gone. Me, Johnny Swinger, Simon Dunn, all of us.
The New York connection?
No, that's just the wrestling business. I mean, you know, when it rains, it pours. I mean, if one guy messes up, it usually takes everybody that's with him down.
So you've been working the indies, though, since then, so
I've been working a lot of indies. I feel quite a bit, to be honest with you, at least 4 days a week. I've been working for a company called Saw out of Nashville, which has a lot of promise to it, and I really like it a lot. In fact, Chase Stevens, Andy Douglas, Kid Cash, a lot of guys work there.
Oh, wow. So a lot of the TNA the heart of TNA from the beginning days are there.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of the TNA roster in there, and I think they're bringing Bull Buchanan in and people like that too. So.
Oh man, we got to get back on the show. We haven't had him on since '02, I think.
Oh, I love the Bull. He's one of my best friends in the world. You know, I wrestled him years ago when one of his very first times he'd ever started in the business was North Georgia Championship Wrestling with Sammy Kent. And I came in, and the first night I was there, I wrestled a guy named Bobby Hayes, and we had match of the night, and they loved us, and they're going to do all this and that with us. And then the next night I had Bull, and apparently the night before, Bull had gone out there and, given a guy too much. And they had a talk with him, and they were like, we need you to be aggressive. You're a big guy. We need you to, just go out there and, be a monster. So the next night I had Bull, and we're talking, and we go out to the ring, and he tried to kill me. The whole match, he was killing me. I was trying my best to fight back, and he would just clobber me.
Wow. So
I hold it over his head every day.
I always love when the big guys try to bully around the little guys, unfortunately. And you're not exactly a little guy. You're a big dude yourself. And that's one of the things I noticed when you first started in TNA, and I had seen you on, I had a guy who used to send me a lot of the NWA Wildside tapes so I can check that out, was for a larger guy, when you look at you, you don't think, well, this guy can do a moonsault. This guy can move around. But you really are a heck of an athlete. So what do you think about, maybe not looking like the typical Amazing Red Rey Mysterio, being able to do some of the stuff that they're able to do?
To be honest with you, I always thought it would be a marketable thing, and nobody ever caught on to it. I mean, I could never get an office, to be like, wow, this guy's marketable, we could do something with him. And then, Samoa Joe walks in, does the same thing, and they love him.
Huh. You think he kind of, not necessarily stole your thunder, but do you think he kind of stepped into what you were going for?
No. I think I was done, at least a year before I ever quit TNA.
Do you think so?
Yeah, at least. And, Joe's one of my best friends. I love Joe. In fact, he's probably one of my favorite people to watch wrestle. He's unbelievable. Me and Joe used to have this game at TNA, and we called it hockey punching. And what we would do is we would punch each other in the face as hard as we possibly could, but you had to do it when the guy least expected it. Like I punched Joe while he was peeing one day. And one night we were in the bar, and I was playing a video game, and he hit me so hard I hit the floor. So one night I was walking back to my hotel from the bar, and it was right across the street from the hotel. So I was walking. It was like a bar and grill, and I was walking across the street, and I got a text message from Chris Daniels, which was Joe's roommate, and it said Joe is asleep. So of course I grabbed as many people as I possibly could, and I texted them back. I was like, "Leave your door open." So I bring all these people up as witnesses. I go tiptoeing into their room, and I see this big mound of covers laying on the bed, and I go tiptoeing up to it, and next thing you know, Joe dives out of the bathroom. He punches me in the face. I bounce off the TV, hit the bed, hit the floor. And Daniels, of course, videotaped the whole thing from the other side of the room, with my witnesses standing at the door.
Oh, boy. So who eventually won the game? Was that the end of the game? Or?
No, it wasn't the end of the game, and it ended really, really bad.
Uh-oh.
I went to the office. I said, look, nobody's really watching Explosion. I said, let me wrestle Joe. I'm going to hide beside the ramp, and I want to punch him in the face as he's walking to the ring. And to this day, you can go back and find the match, I'm sure. As he's walking down the ramp, I jumped up and I punched him in the face as hard as I could, but I hit him, instead of the jaw, I caught him in the corner of his eye.
Uh-oh.
I staggered him, and when I did, he hyperextended his knee and tore his PCL.
Oh, shit.
Oh, I felt so bad.
Oh, man.
I felt so bad. I almost quit the business. It was that bad. I mean, I really felt that bad. It devastated me that I hurt him that bad.
Oh, gosh.
And he was trying to kill me the whole match. I mean, if you watch the match, I mean, he had me in there, and he was kicking me in the chest. I mean, he was just trying to kill me the whole. And I expected that, but I've already won the game. I didn't care.
Do you ever hold that over Joe's head?
Huh?
Do you ever hold that over Joe's head that you won the game?
Oh, all the time. Yeah, of course I did.
So
at the same right, the game was over because I mean, it was just, I felt so bad. I honestly almost quit. I almost went to Demore that night, and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Oh.
I mean, I felt really bad because as soon as the match was over, they had to take him out in an ambulance and had to go to the hospital. It was a mess.
So he got in there and worked despite the fact he was pretty messed up.
Yeah. Well, of course, he wanted to kill me.
Give you a couple of receipts in there, then I take it.
Oh, God, yeah, tons of them. But it was still worth it because I'd done punched him in the face in the national audience.
So
There's no topping that. You have to fly to my house and punch me while I'm having sex to top that.
I was going to say, well, how do we know that he's not going to show up during this interview and just pop you?
Luckily, he doesn't know where I'm at.
It's a good idea. Oh, man. So, I mean, it's great to hear these stories. I didn't really expect you to tell these stories, but let me go back to one of the favorite stories that I had when you first, well, it wasn't when you first started, but it was the early days of TNA. And that was when they had you on the reverse Goldberg losing streak.
Right.
Now, some of that was very funny, what they were pulling off with you. Were you okay with that, or did you, at any point, were you kind of like, why me?
No, I loved it. To be honest with you, Jeff was about to get rid of me. He never cared much for my work from day one. His dad loved me, but Jeff just never really cared for it. And his dad hired me. I mean, I wrestled AJ Styles in his tryout match for TNA, and his dad said it was the best he'd ever seen in his life. And he signed both of us the same night. Me and AJ Styles were the first two contracts ever signed for TNA.
Wow. That's awesome.
And Jeff, he was going to get rid of me, and Dutch Mantel loved me. And I love Dutch. Dutch is awesome. I mean, I can never say a bad word about Dutch. You know, him and Terry Taylor are probably two of the best people working in that company right now. And Dutch came to me and he told me, he's like, you know, they want to get rid of you, but I'm trying to come up with something for you. And I said, well, let's do a losing streak. I said, can't get much more humiliating than that, and I can make it work. And, you know, Dutch went, and they loved it, so we went from there, which led to the ICP thing, which nobody wanted to work them when they came in the door. And, you know, me and Disco volunteered because we knew it was going to get a lot of press, A. And B, you know, I mean, if you know how to wrestle, you can lead anybody through. I mean, seriously, you can. There's no rhyme or reason why you can't get in there. And I mean, I wrestled Jeff Hammond on TV, for God's sakes.
Exactly.
So, I mean, ICP was awesome. We got out there, we did what we had to do, and I come up with the idea of me being afraid of clowns because I have a friend, he's terrified of clowns. He won't even walk into your house if you have clown figurines.
Really?
I came up with the idea to do that, and it just worked. I really hated that the ICP angle got dropped because I don't really even know what happened on that. I just know one week we were doing something, next week they were gone.
Now, do a lot of wrestlers enjoy working with celebrities? Because I remember an interview with James Storm where he was actually kind of excited about working with Frank Wycheck, and he was a little disappointed that they changed it to a tag match. So do wrestlers, like, when they put him up against celebrities, do they go, oh boy, let's see what I can do with this guy?
I honestly think it's just the fact that the spotlight's on you. It doesn't have anything to do with the celebrity, you know, in general. It's just the fact that, you know, all eyes are on you because the celebrity's in the match. And it gives you a chance to shine, and honestly, it may upgrade your status with the company.
Absolutely, and that's certainly a plus for you guys, especially when you were doing the thing with ICP, because the fans that were showing up weren't the usual Impact Zone or at the time Asylum fans. They were
not at all.
They were complete ICP
when the Juggalos came in. Yeah,
oh yeah, that's all you heard.
Juggalos.
You'd have a match going on that had absolutely nothing to do with ICP, and the crowd was still chanting ICP.
Yeah, and I mean, the office hated the Juggalos. They would always be like, oh my God, these people are just running the real fans away and blah, blah, blah. And I loved them. I mean, they were great. I didn't care if they threw stuff in the ring. I didn't care what they did.
Have you ever worked for Juggalo champion Bleep Wrestling?
I have not, and I cannot believe they never brought me in. I would have been perfect for that company. I actually made one of their DVDs.
What do you mean by that?
They put a match from TNA of one of our matches, me and Disco against them two, on one of their DVDs.
Oh, really? Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's got to be a compliment to be on Juggalo champion Bleep Wrestling DVD.
Yeah, they're funny guys, too. I mean, I liked them. They were really cool to hang out with, and they were just nice guys. They loved the business.
Absolutely.
Well, another celebrity match that you were involved with, this was probably your biggest match in TNA, was the Base Brawl that one, I believe it was Turning Point 2005, and that got a lot of media hype for TNA. So what was it like being a part of all that huge media attention and hype for the company?
You know, I was honestly watching that match the other day. We were in California, and we were, me and Chase Stevens were together, and we were watching it online. And we were watching the match, and I saw Elix fall on his head, like the opening match. You know, right in the very beginning of the match, he tried to do some kind of flip and just fell on his head. And I told Chase, I said, that's why I don't have a job anymore.
Just because Elix fell on his head, that's why you don't have a job?
Yeah, that's one I'm going to blame it on right now. But no, I mean, there was a lot of stuff that went on with us not having a job anymore. The baseball thing was cool. I really liked it, and it had so much potential to go so much further. They actually wanted to do a show right after a baseball game, like just have the ring put up in the field and have 3 matches right after a baseball game. And I mean, come on, how many people could you possibly have at a packed stadium? What, 60,000 people? I mean, that's 60,000 fans. You're showing your product right there.
Absolutely. Isn't that how they used to do the old showdown at Shays?
Yeah, and we came in one day and we were told that the whole angle had been dropped because Dixie didn't think that there would be enough hype or media attention for it to be worth her time.
After all the hype surrounding the baseball match, were you disappointed that the Diamonds in the Rough didn't get more of a push following it? Because it sort of seemed like you guys then pretty much dropped off the show again until, you know, there needed to be another job done.
Yeah, it still led back to the asking for a raise thing. I mean, Elix, I wasn't going to ask Elix not to ask for a raise because I honestly thought we both deserved one. We've been there for 5 years, and at the same right, they didn't want, you know, to pay us more money. So, I mean, every time he asked for a raise, we got punished. If we didn't get taken off the show, we got put under to somebody, and that's just the way it worked out.
Now, were there ever any hopes that you would get maybe, so you wouldn't get punished for somebody else's mistakes, get split away from them?
We got taken off TV, and the way our contracts were designed, we got paid per show. And we got taken off TV. So, I mean, I sat at home for, 2.5, 3 months and didn't make a dime from TNA. And I was working for Hermie Sadler, and he was running his company, you know, up in Virginia.
It was
North
UWF?
Carolina. Yes. And he was paying us as much as TNA was. So, I mean, I wasn't really losing any income, but at the same right, you know, I could have had double income if TNA was using it. And, you know, I got a letter in the mail that said, you can't work for Hermie anymore. We've had a falling out, and your contract states we own you, and you cannot work for him anymore. So I called Terry Taylor, and I said, look, Terry, I said, you know, I have kids. I have, you know, bills to pay. There's just no way that you can tell me that I can't, you know, support my family. And basically what Terry said was, well, you know, Dave, why don't you just ask for your release? He said, I mean, our contract's holding you back, and, you know, it's not helping you in any way, shape, or form, so, and you can always come back. And I said, well, you know what? I guess I'm asking for it. And then, like 2 days later, I got a voicemail from Terry that said, well, you've been released. You don't work here anymore. And they were good enough to fire Elix, too.
Good. So I guess he didn't get his raise then.
No, they actually brought Elix back later on, and they were going to try to revamp the Triple X thing. Right. But Elix had broken his wrist working Bull Buchanan in the indie show. And when he did the Ultimate X match with, I want to say it was him and Low Key, right? When they did the Atlanta pay-per-view?
I believe so.
Yes. Yeah, I remember that match, yeah.
He took the power bomb to the concrete, right?
Yeah.
Elix had an IV in his bicep because he had a bone infection in his wrist. And they had already removed the bones in his wrist once and taken bones out of his elbow to put back into his wrist. And it was his second surgery. They'd already removed the bones twice because the infections kept eating through the bone. And he had an IV that he had to hook up to in his bicep 3 times a day just to take antibiotics to keep the bone infection down. And he still wrestled the Ultimate X match that night if you look at the tape, he actually had his bicep bandaged up to keep the IV down.
Oh, gosh.
He was a tough guy. I mean, I'm not going to cut him short. He is tough as nails.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, didn't I read that he was thinking about trying out for MMA?
I'd be shocked if he did it. I mean, it's up his alley because he was always into the Muay Thai thing. I mean, he did Muay Thai kickboxing for like 7 years. So, I mean, it'd be up his alley. But at his age, I just don't really see it something he would want to pursue on a full-time basis.
I'll say this, though. Every time I watch Elix Skipper, I get scared because it seems like he always does something that's so crazy and over the top that it's, you know, I keep expecting one of those stunts to go wrong or something.
Yeah, and I tell him that. I mean, every time he does something stupid, I'll look at him and I'll be like, that's the most retarded thing I've ever seen in my life. And he's like, I'm never going to do it again. The cage walk was probably the stupidest thing I've ever seen him do. And he'll even tell you he was falling. I mean, he was about to fall as soon as he jumped and hooked his legs around Harris's neck.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, that's one of those moments when even as a fan just watching it at home, you're watching it and time stood still. You're like, oh, God, please don't die.
You know, I was less shocked by him doing that than I was Chris Harris taking that, because Chris Harris was one of those guys that would not take anything. I mean, he was just always, I mean, I was amazed that Chris Harris took that move.
Wow.
Of all people, I mean, I would have saw Chris Daniels, James Storm, anybody, but Chris Harris, no. I would have never thought Chris Harris would have done it. He was just always one of those safety guys.
Do you think that kind of hurt him in the WWE?
I don't know what hurt him in the WWE, to be honest with him. I mean, you know, in TNA, he was always, like, top of the line. He was in shape. He was tan. He was, you know, I mean, come on. If you looked at AMW, you would have thought Chris Harris was going to be the breakout star.
Absolutely.
Right.
But then when they split up, you automatically noticed that Storm was the one with all the personality. And Storm, I mean, Storm's amazing. I mean, I've known Storm for years, and I'll never sell him short. I mean, I think he's a great wrestler. I love being in the ring with him, and I expected so much more from Chris.
I did as well, and I think we were all just disappointed to see that whatever happened to WWE didn't work out. But apparently, he was backstage at the pay-per-view the other night for TNA. So who knows? Maybe he's trying to get back in there if he didn't make too many enemies.
Well, I hope not.
You hope that
if he does get to go back.
You hope that he does get to go back. Oh, okay. Good. Well,
I love Chris. I've known Chris since the Indies. Him, Abyss, me, Eric Harris. I mean, we used to travel on the Indies together on the Nashville circuit. I mean, constantly.
And, I mean, like I said, the first time I got a chance to see was in NWA Wildside, and that was some good stuff. I mean, you were one of the standout guys from that company.
Oh, thank you very much. I thought there was a lot of standout guys from that company, but thank you very much. I just had a good supporting cast. I mean, I tell everybody now, the only reason I ever made it to TNA is AJ Styles could make a broom look like it knows what it's doing.
Well, hey, I mean, you can't be doing too bad if you're in there doing the moves for a WWE-based video game. You got to know what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's true. You know, this is honestly my 20th year as a wrestler.
Wow, I did not even know that.
Yeah. I mean, I've been in the business 13 years. I started when I was like 16.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, this is my 20th year of being a pro wrestler, and the longest I've ever taken off was 6 months for, knee surgery.
Wow. That's a long time to be in the wrestling business. Now, obviously, with all the unfortunate news that we've had over the past couple of weeks with the passing of Test, obviously you have to have opinions on that, considering you undoubtedly crossed paths with him at some point.
The only time I ever really crossed paths with him was at TNA, and he was in the dressing room right after he left WWE. And he was in phenomenal shape. I mean, he looked unbelievable. Just seeing him in the dressing room, but I honestly don't know what the deal was between him and TNA. But I didn't really know Tess very well. I know it hurts all of us when, a wrestler's lost, because the media is like vultures swarming around us, dying, just waiting for one of us to pass away so they can make something out of it.
Exactly. Exactly. That's actually what we were just about to ask you, because you left TNA, I believe it was February of 2007, thereabouts?
Somewhere around, yes.
Yeah, and shortly after that, we were hit with the don't go out wearing a wrestling T-shirt, otherwise you're going to get bombarded with people saying that they hate you, stuff that happened with the Chris Benoit thing. And what did you honestly think of the way that the media, jumped on it and treated us as wrestling fans and in the wrestling community, and just basically made it sound like we're just all a bunch of drug-using jackasses?
I will go on record and say that I'm a huge Chris Benoit fan. I'm never going to tell you that. I mean, I remember when I was a kid and I was watching WCW, and Jushin Liger was going to be introduced to WCW, and they showed a match of him in Japan working Chris Benoit. And I thought Chris Benoit was a standout in the match. And I was excited when he first came to WCW. Or, ECW. I mean, I just always kept up with his career, and he was a hero of mine. And I can't condone what happened. I can't tell you what happened. I can't tell you what the problem was. All I know is it really hurt me. I mean, the very first night, all I knew was Chris was dead. And I was hurt. I mean, I literally cried. And I'd only met him like 5 or 6 times ever. And it just really hurt me because, I mean, if you ever met him, he was like one of those guys that was just so nice. You could talk to him, and he would talk back. And there's a lot of guys in the business like that. I mean, Stone Cold was one of those guys. I mean, if you talk to him, he'd sit and have a conversation with you. And, he was just, a super, super cool guy. And I can't tell you what happened or what went wrong. I just know that I think the wrestling business died a little when he did.
I would say so. I mean, Benoit was one of those guys that if you went to a live event and you just sat on a bench as people were leaving the arena and just listened to conversations, a lot of the times the people that were leaving would say things like, well, you know what, that women's match, that was BS, and that main event, that was BS, but that Benoit match, that was real.
Yeah, and he was a tough guy, too. He was another one of those guys that would just get in there and be really physical when he got in the ring.
Absolutely. And there's nobody who's ever going to be, for all the things that happen, and it might be hard for some of us to go back and watch those matches, but we're all going to remember him as one of the greatest technical wrestlers of all time.
I think one of the best matches I've ever watched in my life was when he won the title. The three-way with him, Shawn Michaels, and Triple H, I honestly think Triple H is one of the best in-ring performers in the world. I don't think there's anybody that's going to top him as far as being an in-ring performer.
Probably not.
He's just amazing.
Absolutely.
And that match was just incredible. I mean, you can go back and watch it now, and there was just no mistakes. I mean, it was just top of the line from beginning to end.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Now, with you doing this video game for the WWE, for THQ, do you have any hopes that maybe they'll see that, look, well, this guy can do all our moves, maybe we should give him a tryout or something along those lines? Do you have any hopes for that?
That would be nice, but that would also be wishful thinking. I'd like to go to Japan. If I did anything, I'd like to go to Japan for a year or two and just work over there. Because in the States right now, I mean, the economy's just so bad. Companies are letting guys go left and right just so they'll let 5 guys go so they can bring 1 in. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, you just saw that with TNA. And it's just, I mean, the wrestling business in the United States right now is just so bad, and that's just my goal right now. I'd like to go to Japan and just work over there for a couple of years.
Is there a particular company you'd be interested in Japan, or would it just be,
I'd love to go to Noah. I would love to go to Noah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's very interesting because one of the people that we were associated with very closely a few months ago was Richie Steamboat, Ricky's son. And,
oh, really?
Yeah, he's working with Noah, or he was. I think he's headed back to the States now for to watch his father apparently wrestle at WrestleMania.
Yeah, well, Bull works for Noah too.
That's
Bull
really
Buchanan.
Very good.
Cool.
I did not even know that.
Yeah, actually, he and D'Lo they jumped ship from All Japan, I think, to Noah.
Oh wow. See, I don't even know that. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that because that seems to be a good market. And I got to tell you, when I try to get as many of these tapes as I can because I just am a wrestling junkie and I can't get enough. And I try to get into the Noah stuff is awesome. The New Japan stuff is hit and miss, but sometimes it's really good stuff. And I mean, I
think Kenta is amazing. Kenta is one of the best workers I think I've seen in years.
Wow, I tend to agree. I mean, there's a lot of guys in Japan that the style is completely different, and it wouldn't translate to the U.S., but to the mainstream U.S. anyway. But
I wouldn't say that. If you watch a CM Punk match, you pretty well watched a Kenta match.
Fair point.
Yeah.
Now, what is your opinion of companies like Ring of Honor who try to bring that strong style?
I love Ring of Honor.
You love Ring of Honor?
I wrestled for Ring of Honor like 3 or 4 times. one of the best matches I think I've ever had was there. It was me, AJ Styles, and Adam Jacobs in a three-way.
Really?
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, it was great. I accidentally busted AJ open the hard way, but
was that for the X Division title?
Huh?
Was that match for the X Division title? Because I think I have that match on DVD.
It could have been. It very well may have been.
All right, that was a great match.
Well, man,
I slammed AJ's head into the side of the ring and I split him open.
Oh.
Do they ever get mad at you when you do that, when you bust them open the hard way? I mean, do they really get pissed off at you?
Most of the guys see it like I do. It's not being hurt. I mean, if we get stitches, we get stitched up in the dressing room. It's not like we have to go to the hospital and pay $500-600 for it. So, I mean, you know, and if I'm on an indie show and I get split open, it's super glue. It's not like, you know, unless there's just some kind of, I've only had stitches a couple of times in my life, and that was mainly because there was an artery that got busted open or something like that. But it's just collateral damage. I mean, it's just part of the job. We don't go out there to play golf. I mean, it's very physical, and you get hurt.
Absolutely. Well, do you mind if we close out with just a few word associations? What we'll basically do is give you a psychological exam, and we'll give you a name. And if
this could be bad for me.
We'll just give you a name. If you have a story to tell, that's fine. If you just want to give a one-word answer that best sums them up, that's cool too.
Okay.
All right, let's start out with your first manager in TNA. I'm sure you have a lot of opinions. How about Bobcat?
Bobcat, oh, I love her. She's awesome. Her and Al Snow are together, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, I think if they didn't get married already, they're getting married this month, I think.
Yeah, she's great. I love her to death. I honestly wish that they'd have done more with that. It had a lot of potential.
How about the leader of the Diamonds in the Rough, Simon Diamond?
I think he's one of the smartest men in pro wrestling, and I think it's a crime that he doesn't have a job.
What's he doing now that he's out of?
I think he runs his own personal training business, to be honest with you.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear he's doing okay then.
Yeah, well, he kept that job. He said that, you know, he didn't want wrestling to be his number one income, and he wanted something to fall back on. Monty Brown was the same way.
How about Johnny Swinger?
I love him. I see Johnny Swinger all the time. We worked a lot of indies together. Actually, I worked for a company Johnny Swinger was running, GCW. I worked there for 3 years, even during TNA. I mean, it was just like a steady gig for me every week. And Swinger's just one of those guys. I mean, he's a workhorse. I love him.
I have one. How about the phenomenal AJ Styles?
One of my best friends in the world. I can honestly say that AJ Styles is just as good a person outside the ring as he is a performer in the ring. I got to never know that he's the superstar that he is.
It was about a year into doing the show. I got a call on my phone, and I've interviewed AJ about a year prior. I mean, he was one of my first guests. And he said, I don't know why I'm calling you, but you're just the number that popped in my phone. I'm standing in Philadelphia in a hotel lobby, and they have the wrestlers booked in the same hotel as a transsexual convention, and I needed to talk to somebody to tell them about it.
Poor AJ.
I mean, I thought, okay, well, I haven't talked to you in about 9 months, but you know what? Fine, I'll talk to you about it. No, I think
he's the funniest guy. He's funny, and he doesn't try to be funny. That's what I love about AJ. That's the best part of being on the road with him, is he would just say something outlandishly funny, and he was, dead serious when he said it. I love him. He's awesome.
How about AJ Styles? Oh, we just talked about it. Mike Posey is what I meant to say. Sorry about that.
Mike Posey, I love Mike too. Mike's a good guy. I hated that Mike got let go. I honestly didn't see a reason for Mike to be let go. I thought he was doing really good there in WWE. I mean, he was running the ring crew and referee. And I mean, have you ever been to one of the shows and saw how Mike worked? I mean, Mike was out there shouting out orders. He was like, you're moving too slow. Get over here. You got 5 minutes to do this. You got 3 minutes to do it. Go, go, go. I mean, Mike was like I honestly don't know why they would let him go.
How about somebody we talked about a little earlier? We had him on the show, and when I actually asked him to be on the show, this was back in 2007, I asked him to do an interview, and he's like, well, thank you for remembering me, and that was Air Paris.
Frank Paris, I have known him since he's 14 years old. He used to sit in the front row of shows, and he was like one of the biggest fans, and I hated him. He was the most annoying little kid I'd ever met in my life. he worked his way up to being the guy that plays the music, and the next thing you know, he was wrestling like 2 years later. But yeah, I hated him. But now he's probably one of my best friends in the world. I actually saw him just the other day. I did a show with him this past Saturday.
How's he looking?
Like hell.
At least you're honest.
Yeah.
I had heard that he wasn't
still
looking.
Frank.
He wasn't
He's
looking.
Still, he's still Air Paris. He's the funniest guy. Him and Adam Jacobs are two of the funniest guys, and nobody would ever know it because they don't show that side of themselves in front of the camera. But and there's a lot of guys like that. Brad Armstrong, to me, is the funniest man. He could go up and be a comedian and probably make millions because he's that funny. I mean, Air Paris is exactly like him.
I heard that that was what they constantly were trying to do throughout the years with Brad Armstrong, was to bring his backstage persona onto the screen, because apparently...
You know what? If they could have, he would make millions of dollars, because he is so charismatic in the dressing room and so funny. And it's just amazing to me that he would just, turn into 1980s wrestler as soon as he got in front of the camera.
That's what they tried to actually give him a job as recently as a few years ago as an announcer for ECW, because Vince thought he was hysterical.
Yeah, and, he's funny. I mean, he is just so funny.
And unfortunately, he wasn't as he was good, but he wasn't as good as Vince was expecting when he was the announcer.
Yeah.
Shame.
Yeah.
I actually called him the other one day. He was working at a place that Kwee Alan Funk used to run, and Kwee actually gave him the job, and he was still working there, and I didn't know it was him. And I kept thinking to myself, and I almost kicked myself in the butt because I actually said it to him. I said, you sound a lot like B.G. James. And I thought, oh, what a jackass, when I found out that it was actually Brad.
Yeah, and you know what? Those two are a lot alike. I mean, B.G. is just as funny in the bag, but B.G.'s personality comes out all the time. I mean, even when he's in front of the camera, he's funny.
Absolutely.
We had a show one night, and it was me and Elix against B.G. and Billy Gunn and the Naturals in a three-way tag match. And all day long, Billy kept trying to come up with this and come up with that, and BG was having no part of it. He just didn't want to talk about it. He didn't want to do anything. So the first time Billy gets in the ring, he does something to Andy, hits the ropes and does BG's little dance and drops the knee and goes for the cover, and BG dove in the ring and jerked Billy off of it and cut a promo on him right there in the middle of the ring. He said, "What in the hell are you doing?" He said, "I have two moves. You just did them both." And he said, "Go ahead, tag me so they can see it again." Felix laughed so hard he fell into the floor holding his stomach. It was the funniest thing I'd ever seen in my life.
How about we go with the Monster Abyss?
Great guy. I love Abyss. I've known Chris for 100 years. We used to do indies together too. Chris is one of those guys that. You ever see What About Bob?
Yeah.
You know how he's always like, "You mad at me?"
Yeah.
If you've heard that phrase from Abyss one time, you've heard it 700 million times. And I love him. I'll walk up to him, I'll hug him, and as soon as I hug him, he'll get done and he'll look at me and go, "You're not mad at me, are you?" And I said, "Chris, I haven't seen you in months and we just hugged." "Well, you never know. You know how this business is." I'll be like, "No, Chris, it's not like that. Not like that at all."
So that's kind of strange, because when you see him, he's done things to his body that most normal human beings would not do.
He is. I have said from day one that Abyss was probably the best big man in the business. And if TNA hadn't have done, as much as they've done with him, I honestly think WWE would have scooped him up and made us, he would have been right up there with The Undertaker.
Right, and he's
There's an answer I'd like to say.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Well, man, I got to tell you, Patrick, do you have any more names you want to throw at him?
No, I think that was all the ones. Oh, how about Glenn Gilberti?
Glenn? Love him. I'm shocked you haven't thrown Raven at me yet.
Oh,
but,
okay, I'll give you that next then.
Glenn? Yeah, Glenn's great. Glenn was always one of those guys. When we were at TNA, I remember, we'd be out there and we'd try to be getting things together, and Glenn would be like, "Yeah, I don't do flippy things. Let's let David do all that." I'd be like, "Oh, you bastard, I just want to choke you right now." So, yeah, he made my life a hell for a little while. But, I mean, I always had fun with Glenn, and we had good chemistry. That was the best thing about us. When we got in front of the camera and did promos, I mean, it was always gold. It was always funny.
Now, let me ask you this. Honest opinion, what did you think was the better live crowd? Did you think the Asylum crowd was better than the Impact Zone?
I'll tell you the difference between Nashville and Florida. Nashville, it was less personal, because Nashville, I would do the show and we would leave, you know, because we were close enough to go home. But in Florida, as soon as the show was over, all the fans knew where we were. They knew exactly where we stayed. They would be at the hotels waiting on us. They would be right there. And it's the same fans every week. Every single week it would be the same people. And you just got to where you had personal relationships with the fans, you know, in Florida. To where I just felt like more of a star in Nashville.
I personally think a lot of people say that TNA didn't have any direction back in the Nashville days and all that, but watching the shows, I really thoroughly enjoyed those, even more than really what I'm seeing now.
It was raw. I mean, that was the difference between then and now, is that it was different. I mean, you had young guys that were hungry, going out there trying really hard to give the people something they'd never seen before, as to where now they're like robots, and they're doing what they're told, and, you know, they're just happy to have a job. And I think that's I mean, I don't watch it. I can't watch it anymore. It's just gotten to the point to where it's just not good for me anymore.
How about, you mentioned them, I'll give you 3 last names, and that'll be all and we'll let you off the phone, because we really do appreciate your time. This has been excellent. Really better than I expected.
No problem.
How about the name that you just asked us for, Raven?
No in-betweens. I either walk away from Raven so pissed off I want to kill him, or so depressed I want to kill myself.
Crap.
There's no middle ground there. With Raven, he is the only person I've ever met in my life that will compliment you and cut you down at exactly the same time.
My grandmother does that.
Yeah, Raven will be like, yeah, you know, David Young, you had a good match, but you're still fucking fat. I'll be like, oh, God, yeah, thanks.
Oh, God. How about Dixie Carter?
Very nice lady. I always respected Dixie. Dixie was always super, super nice. I don't know, I just felt like she should have done more. I still should. I honestly think she's, you know, the boss. She should be able to walk in there and say, you know, this isn't working, let's do this, and let's do this. But it was never that way. You know, it was always, you know, everybody else make a call on all the shots, and Dixie would just go along with it. But Dixie is a great lady and a very fair person to work with.
You think she knows the business well enough to come in there and say, you know, well, I don't agree with you, I'm going to do it this way?
I don't think she does, but I think she could learn. Honestly, do. I mean, she puts it in the hands of people that she thinks are, you know, the people that should be doing it, and well, I watch the show. I can't tell you anything else, you know, just watch the show.
And the final name on the list is the guy you said was never a fan of your work, Jeff Jarrett.
Jeff Jarrett. Jeff never liked me. He never, I mean, I could never warm up to him, and I tried several times, and it was just, you know, always awkward. It was one of those things where I tried to talk to him, and you ever have one of those people that goes out of their way to just kind of be intimidating, or try to be, you know, one of those people that you can't just have a conversation with? I always felt that way with Jeff. I think Jeff, as far as a wrestler, I think he's great. I mean, I think he's a workhorse. I think he really does love TNA. I think because I saw it. I mean, it was always, you know, Jeff Jarrett was nonstop. He was 7 days a week for TNA. Even when his wife, you know, and God rest her soul, I mean, when his wife was sick, he was nonstop. He was on the phone with her constantly, and he would still be trying to work things out. He'd still be negotiating this. He'd still be negotiating that. And even when we weren't wrestling, Jeff was in the office, or Jeff was on the road trying to, you know, get new sponsors. I mean, Jeff was just, he's key to TNA getting as far as it has so far.
Absolutely. There was one...
Just,
sorry, go ahead.
I mean, I honestly just think there's some directions that they shouldn't go. But, I mean, and I don't blame Jeff. I honestly think there's other people involved. It was just politics, but, I mean...
Well, I'll be honest with you. When I watch it now, and I have no trouble with the individual, but my problem is it's the Kurt Angle show.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I don't watch it enough to know that, to be honest with you. I mean, the last year I could probably count on one hand how many times I've even, turned to Spike TV and watched the show. And it's just, I don't even think it's because I was bitter because I wasn't there. It's just that it's just not good to watch. It's not fun anymore. I mean, my son is like the biggest wrestling fan in the world, and he doesn't watch it anymore.
Exactly, and that's the thing. If you're a fan and you don't like watching a wrestling show, then something's wrong there.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not fun, what's the point?
Exactly. I mean, I'll be honest with you. There was a time there where on Thursday night or Monday night or whatever, I'd go through and I'd watch, a USWA tape rather than watch what was on the TV.
Yeah.
Just because I thoroughly enjoyed the old school better than I enjoyed what I'm watching now. There was one more thing I wanted to ask you about, and it just popped into my head. Back during the Asylum days, there was an incident with you and Dusty Rhodes, and I don't know what this was. I think it was probably just another backstage promo. It didn't mean anything, but Dusty was coming out, and you were asking him for a spot or for a job or something, and he kind of just shot you down. You remember what I'm talking about?
It wasn't the Asylum days. It was in Orlando.
Was that in Orlando?
It was Universal. It was Universal. I'd actually been sitting home for 6 months, and what happened was Trim Spot came on as a sponsor. And they wanted to do a before and after thing with me. So, they told me to get as out of shape as I possibly could, which wasn't that big of a stretch at the time. And, in 90 days, I went from 265 pounds to 215 pounds. And I went from 23% body fat to 8% body fat.
Wow.
And I came back, I called Dusty one day, and Dusty was like, look, and Dusty had just taken over the book. And he was like, your contract's to the point to where, we're either going to have to do something with you or we're going to have to, pay you to sit at home. So, let's just bring you in and do this and do that. So I come in, and I wrestled Shark Boy, and I beat him. And it took me, Chris Candido, and the Naturals to beat him. It took 4 of us to beat Shark Boy.
Seems like Shark Boy's been the bane of your existence.
Yes. And Shark Boy will tell you the same thing. Me and him had more matches than him and anybody. And we beat him, and the Naturals threw me on their shoulders and carried me around the ring like I just won the Super Bowl. So, the next show was the pay-per-view. So I come to the pay-per-view, I go in, I look, I'm not really doing anything. So I went to Candido, and I was like, what's going on? He said, I kind of thought we were going to be doing something together. He said, well, I don't know. He said, nobody said anything to me. So I went to the Naturals, and they were like, no, well, I'm sorry, nothing's going on, but I would ask. I would go talk to somebody. I was like, all right, look, TV's the day after tomorrow, so I'll just wait till then. I'm sure that's when they're going to start. So I get to TV, I look at the board, we're not doing anything. So I went to Terry Taylor. I was like, what the hell is going on? What is this? I said, last TV, I'm being carried around like I just won the Super Bowl, and this time I'm doing nothing. I said, what's going on? And Terry was like, look, Dave, this is the lamest excuse I'm ever going to give you, but maybe he just forgot. It's a stressful job. Maybe he just forgot what he was going to do with you, and he just forgot to write it in. Go up to the man, to be respectful, and just, tell him what's going on. Well, I did that. It was during catering, so Dusty was standing at the back of his pickup truck, which was his set at the time. And I walked up, I was like, Dusty, you care if I talk to you for a second? And he's like, no, I don't have a problem with that at all. And I started talking. I said, well, I know you told me that the company was going a certain direction, and you had a big plan for everybody, and it was when I had to look at the long term and say just right now, but I kind of felt like I was going to be doing something with Candido and the Naturals. And he actually stopped. He puts down his plate, he looks at me, he said, why would you think that? And at that point, it made me mad. And I was like, I don't know, Dusty. I don't know if you watch your damn TV or not, but last time I was out here, they were carrying me around the ring, throwing confetti and all kinds of stuff. And he said, Dave, he said, I'm going to be as honest as I can. He said, I'm never going to do anything with you. He said, this is just one of those things to where I have to use you, but I don't have to push you. So all you're going to do is come in here and you're going to put people over.
See, that's strange because I would have think that with your style, he'd be somebody that you'd be somebody that he would like.
And I worked for him on his indie show in Turnbuckle, and we were great together. I mean, he loved me, and I went out there and I busted my tail for him, and I would have done the same thing at TNA, and I honestly don't know what the deal was with that particular day. But, you know, it was when he was pushing Bi Kappa Slam and all that stuff, and they were his hunting buddies.
The two guys that came out with Trinity?
Yeah, they were his hunting buddies.
Okay. That explains a lot then.
Yeah. And I looked at him and I said, well, all right, Dusty, I appreciate your honesty. And I walked away and I went to Terry Taylor and I said, I quit. And I went to the dressing room to get my bag, and Terry came up to me and said, Dave, stop. Look, don't quit. He said, don't quit. He said, I can't tell you what's going on, but trust me, something's about to change. Just hang with us a couple more weeks. And the next TV, Dusty had gotten fired. So, and that's when the Diamonds in the Rough started and all my new problems started.
All right, man. Well, I got to tell you, I really enjoyed this. So, where do you see yourself headed from here? What's next for David Young? Just Japan?
Japan. That's my plan. Yeah.
Oh man. Well, I wish you the best.
I'm training hard, and that's exactly where I want to go is Japan.
Well, I got to tell you, man. I've been seeing you on MySpace every time I pop online. It's people you may know, and David Young is the first one on there. So, finally, I got up the gumption to send you a message, and I'm glad I did. And anybody who wants to book you, they can check out WrestleBookings.com. We're going to be adding you any day now to the website, and we're going to try to help you out and get you out there. And
thank you.
I'll see if I can pull some strings with some people that I know over in Japan. But I'm sure that you've already got that pretty much well blanketed with Bull.
Well, I'll take any help I can get. So.
Well, thanks, man. I really can't thank you enough for stopping by. And this has been David Young here on the Interactive Interview. We'll be back in just a moment, talk a little bit about WrestleMania, and to recap the interview. So, David, thanks so much for joining us.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
So everyone else goes down to the ground. He's actually still hanging on the rope. That's actually when I would have done the win, when he just kind of kept straight across and grabbed.